Good morning. This is Melissa Galindo, and I wanted to welcome in Weight Watchers community, Facebook community, and YouTube community, as the Lord has now asked me to go worldwide on YouTube. This is the way to share on all those platforms. So welcome everybody today. As I go ahead and take the step of obedience and say yes to YouTube. And it is a very smart way to share the love of Jesus. And I was a little concerned to go YouTube because I thought it just could be overwhelming being out in the world. But we are called to go out in the world. And I thought I was just called into the community of my area and San Antonio, and God was like, no, you're limiting me. So I have now gone worldwide, Sparkle for Jesus and Shine, and I am the founder of Sparkle for Jesus and Shine, which is an empowering ministry for women to be all God created them to be, which is to sparkle for Jesus and shine, and they are not made to sit in a corner. I am also doing this by changing one life at a time by the power of Jesus Christ. So my brief testimony is I came to the Lord in 2009, and I was very desperate, and I was about to take my life by taking my car off a bridge because I was going through a very hard time with my daughter. My younger daughter, and it was making me very suicidal. And I would go on a coast trip in which I thought I was going to probably follow through with maybe getting drunk and swimming out to sea and never coming back, or taking my car off the side of the road. However, my sister-in-law ended up being in my car, so driving off any road was not any answer. And as God would have it, I wouldn't even drink alcohol on this trip at that level. This trip would be all about finding God in my life. And I would actually, the first night that I was there, my cousin would approach me and would ask me how I was doing and not be prepared for what I was going to tell her. And I then told her that I was suicidal, and I was very close to jumping off of this 9th floor balcony of our hotel, and that she better watch me. And she said, oh my, she said, that's not what I was expecting at all. She said, do you know God? And I said, God, yeah, he's in heaven. He's waiting for me. That's why I'm thinking like off the bridge is where I'm going, so I can just go with God. Like, I am done here. And she's like, no. Like, you're not going to God if you jump off a bridge and you don't know him. And I was like, what? And she's like, she started explaining to me I was going to hell. And it was a real harsh, like, you're going to hell. And I was like, well, that's not good. Like, I just automatically assumed if I jumped off a bridge, I would be going to heaven. And she said, well, no. She said, you'll be going where there's gnashing of teeth, like it says in the Bible. And I said, well, I've always been taught that I'm going to heaven. And, honestly, I said, I'm in hell here, so heck with it. Take me to hell. I'm done. And she's like, no. You don't understand. She's like, she just wouldn't kept pressing in on me. And she's like, no, you don't understand. She said, you're going to hell forever. Eternity burning in hell of gnashing of teeth. It's really not where you want to go. And I said, okay, I get it. What do you want me to do? And she said, well, I want you to find God. And I'm like, okay, for one thing, I'm like, where do you think God is? I said, I think he's up there in the sky. And I don't even know how I'm going to reach this God. You're thinking that I'm crazy. I'm thinking you're crazy because you're telling me to talk to a God that doesn't exist. And you can't see him. And I don't have a rocket to go high enough to get to the heavens. And she's like, no, you don't have to do that. And I said, well, what do you do? And she said, you just have to seek him in your life. I said, by doing what? I said, going to church. I've tried that. That don't work either. And I said, I've tried that 17 years. I've gone to church. That hasn't worked. I'm still don't know anything about God, obviously, because I just want to kill myself. And she said, no. What you need to do is you just need to start seeking him, and you'll find him. And you do that by just seeking, walking in your life and just asking God if he's there. And I'm like, okay, so you want me to walk around saying, God, are you here? I was like, this is sounding a little crazy. And she said, well, do you want your life back? And I said, yeah. She said, well, are you willing to do it? And I said, I guess so. And I remember spending that whole entire trip just looking out into the ocean at Port Aransas saying, God, if you're real, you're my only hope. You're my only hope that I'm going to make it out of here without going to hell. So I then left that trip and went home, and my cousin was a willing vessel. She was the person willing to help me. She walked alongside me, and I was not an easy candidate, folks. I fussed at her. I hung up on her. I told her to leave me alone, go find someone else, blah, 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 and she just wouldn't stop leaving me alone. She kept coming after me, and I told her, I said, listen, this is just too hard. This whole find God thing is just too hard. And the one thing she had told me, she's like, find a church. She said, find a church. And I said, okay. I said, I'm not going back to that church. It don't work. And she said, no, find a church you've never gone to before. I said, okay. And as God would have it, he'd already given me a church, because I had been in a homeowners association meeting where my church was announced, and I had said if I ever needed a church, that was where I was going. So I already knew the church to go to. It was Crossbridge Community Church, announced in a homeowners association meeting that I wasn't supposed to be at. So I knew that was the church, and it is the church that God has used to change the entire trajectory of my life. Sorry if I can't say that very well. Anyways, and so she said, find another church, and find a church you've never attended. Because if you've attended the church and God's not touching you, then you're in the wrong church. So she said, I don't care if you go in an outhouse on the side of the road that says church on it. She said, go in it. I don't care what the church looks like. Well, it's funny because Crossbridge was meeting in an auditorium at a high school. And that just wasn't normal for me. I didn't go to high schools for church, but my cousin was telling me, go where you don't normally go, and go somewhere you've never been. Because if you don't know God like the way I'm saying, then you need to seek him differently. And so I was like, okay, I'm willing. So I went to church, and I walked up to the church, and I remember walking up there, and I was like, okay, God, if you're here, you're going to have to show me. You're going to have to show me you're here. And I'm walking around. I drop Ashley off at daycare, and I go into... I'm walking around under my voice. I'm like, God, are you here? Show me you're here. Because this is what my cousin is telling me to do, is to constantly call out, asking God if he's here. And so then I go sit down, and let me step back a little bit, because at the very beginning, when I very first walked up to church, I met Kirk Freeman. He was the first person to shake my hand. He just said, hi, welcome to Crossbridge. I'm Kirk Freeman. And I said, oh, hi, I'm Melissa. Nice to meet you. And I walked off. Okay, so I sat in my chair. The worship music started, and I was a slobbery mess. I could not stop crying. I had never cried so hard. I didn't need Kleenex. I needed a towel. I was like, what is going on here? I've never been like this in a church. And the lady behind me was just handing me a Kleenex box and rubbing my back. And I was just like, oh my God, like, what is going on? And I was like, God, is this you? Like, is this you? And then the worship music stopped. I gathered myself, and then I saw this guy starting to walk on the stage. And he walked up there and he introduced himself and he said, "Hi, I'm Pastor Kirk Freeman, lead pastor." And I almost jumped out of my chair, because I have been to a lot of churches, folks, and I have never met the lead pastor as the first person that I met walking into a church. They are always in the background. They are always not around me. They're just not around me. God's never had a lead pastor shake my hand, and his dad. Never. And so I was like, what is going on here? I was like, God, I think you're here. I said, I think I'm starting to learn how to find you. And so I'm watching this, and I am so desperate that after he's up there, Pastor Kirk is he wears his heart on his sleeve. He cries a lot in his sermons, and just touched me so much that I just started crying, because he's crying. He's talking about parenting, and he's crying, and he has such a heart for being a good parent. And I'm feeling like such a bad parent in this service, and so I can't stop crying. So I am just a blubbering mess. And at the very end of this service, Pastor Kirk says, if you are hurting today and you need someone to hear your story, there's life groups up here, and you need to pick one, and you need to go to it today. And I was so desperate that I went to a life group the very first day of church. And I went in there with the intention of just going in and hanging out and getting loved on by these people. But as God would have it, I would walk into this house of my 2 children, and I would tell them, we're at this life group, this is what I feel God sent us. And we would go in there, separate into women and men. And my husband was not with me at this time. We were not doing well in our marriage. And he was not about to go to another church. He was over at the church hopping. And so I sat down with the women. And again, the sermon was all about children and what kind of parent you were. And so this one lady started talking and crying hysterically about how bad a parent she was. And of course, I had already had that welling up inside me that I was such a bad parent that I was suicidal because of my child and everything she was going through. And it was all my fault. And so the next thing I know, I'm just throwing up to this life group that I've never met before. I've never been in this house before in my life. And I'm just telling them, listen, I want to kill myself today. And I don't know how much longer I can do this. And and that's just a brief point of what I said, but I was a new visitor, and I'm there to tell them, like, I've come here so that y'all will keep me from taking my car off the bridge. Like, y'all are going to have to be the team of women that come around me. It's going to make me cry. Because those women got up out of their chair and they prayed the power of Jesus Christ in my life like I've never been prayed over before. And they would sit there and tell me that, pray over me, that the demonic would be released from me, that the spirit of suicide would be released over me, and that God would come in and be everything in my life. And I didn't understand prayer at this level at this time, but I was truly amazed. And I left there truly amazed. And so I'm moving around a little bit because my husband's mowing the yard, so I'm trying to not get all that noise in the background. And so I left my life group and my first day with my husband, and got home, told him all about it, told him I was excited, and he was like, yeah, it sounds like you are just on a hunt for church hopping or whatever. And I said, oh, whatever. I was like, I'm not going to get him to believe, because I don't even know what I believe at this point. And so I'm moving around because my husband is in the background with the lawnmower, and I don't want it to me to have to record this video all over again because of y'all hearing a muffling noise in the background. So bear with me as I move. So anyways, so I continued to walk out my journey. That was my new life group. And, but life was still hard. Life was still hard, and the the world's tug on me was still very hard. And, there was days that I just wanted to throw in the towel. And, my cousin called me one day because she was walking alongside me. Again, it was like a tug of war. I mean, it was constantly like I pull her, she pull me, you know. I'd pull her down, she'd pull me back up. I mean, it was a tug of war. And it's like that when you're trying to bring someone into the presence of God. It's not like, oh, okay, whoop, here you go. No, it is a pull. It is a pull. The world pulls, everybody pulls on you backwards. And so she finally presented the question. It is the question that I'm going to ask almost at every single video that I put out on here. But she asked me the question that would ultimately change the entire trajectory of my life. She said, what do you have to lose to find God? Why are you being so rebellious and being so wishy-washy about what you're willing to do, you know? And she said, so I just need to ask you the question, what are you willing to do? You know, what do you have to lose? And I said, I just kind of got quiet, crickets, because my cousin was not in my town. She was, again, I'm moving around because I can hear the lawnmower in the background. So if I keep moving, just bear with me. Anyways, and so she was in a different town, so we were on the phone a lot. And she was like, well, what do you have to lose? Like, you want to jump off the bridge. What do you have to lose at this point? And I was like, you know what? Nothing. You're right. I have nothing left for anybody. And she said, okay, well, that's all I need you to say. Well, then, she's like, try God. I said, okay. She's like, 6 months, Melissa, 6 months. I said, okay, if I don't find God in 6 months, I'm off the bridge. You better come catch me. And I said, because I can't do this anymore. I said, this whole, you know, trying to find God and trying to solve my life and trying to figure out the world and all this, instead, you know, trying to heal my daughter, I said, I just cannot do it anymore. And so that's where my story starts in 2009, is I said yes instead of staying on the fence or whatever, and I dove in to God's way. I started serving the community. I got in a Bible study. I was the yes girl in church. Me and my husband, matter of fact, were the yes couple. If anything needed to be done in church, they called us. We went out on missions all over town. And I wanted to know this God that was going to save my life. And ultimately, in this whole walk, my cousin was also telling me, because I was the woman of blood in the Bible, I was heavily bleeding every single day, and I had accepted it as my new normal. I had accepted that I was going to die of bleeding to death, and that was just not a big deal to me. And she said that that's not acceptable, that's no way to live, and I needed to get that healed and taken care of, and I needed to go to every doctor that I need to go to get that taken care of. So I did what she said, and I had 2 surgeries, and one of those surgeries was a hemodectomy, and it was a very, very painful surgery. And it would be through pain and through a book that I would come to Jesus Christ, and I would lay down my life and accept Jesus Christ in 2009 after a surgery and being in great pain And the previous sermon that I had watched with Pastor Kirk Freeman was God uses pain to bring us to Jesus. And boy, I was in as much pain as you could possibly be in when I said yes to Jesus. I realized that he broke me to the end to rise me to him. So I said yes. That was in 2009 to Jesus, and totally gave my life over. My whole trajectory of my life began to change because my family, then I led my family into Crossbridge, and we changed our whole entire lives. That is the brief entry of 2009. Now I'm going to go to 3 years ago. I'm going to speed ahead because I don't have time to tell 12 years on a video. That will be in a book. I believe that will be written in 2022. But I cannot tell a video on that. So I'm going to just go in and tell my testimony of why I'm on YouTube at this time is, after accepting Jesus Christ, I went through a journey of learning, training, going on missions, and everything. And then in 2018, I clearly heard the Lord tell me to go to Laurel Ridge. I don't know if it's called Mental Institute or Mental Therapy, but I clearly heard the Lord tell me for 3 weeks that I'd be admitting into Laurel Ridge. So I was fine because I am all about the sake of Christ to go into the Mental Institute and the mental ward and talk to everybody about Jesus. I was like, Paul did it in the prison. I'm going to go do it in the mental ward. I don't care. I'm all about the sake for Christ. And so when I was sent to Laurel Ridge, it was no surprise to me. I was like, yeah, this is where God told me to go. However, it got very dark in this journey. It got very, very dark in this journey for me. Even though I said yes to Jesus, and for the sake of Christ to go into the mental ward, this whole journey began to take my life, one day at a time. The pharmaceuticals that I would be put on by my psychiatrist would ultimately take away my voice, my joy, my life. I would become highly suicidal. I would want to end my life every day for several months. I would try to commit suicide probably up to 25 times. I would almost have I actually had a foolproof plan that God would save me from. When I swallowed a huge, not a small rock, a huge rock that should have lodged in my throat. However, God decided to open up my throat so that would drop into my stomach and I'd have to go to the ER and tell him I ate a rock, and be at risk to go into the mental ward once again. And this would ultimately make me more mad at God, because I was getting very mad on this journey because I was losing my life. I absolutely had no life. My brain was being damaged by all pharmaceuticals. I actually went on one medication that actually felt my brain pop. And when I went and got in the shower, I couldn't even remember if I shampooed my hair. I felt like I had no brain. I started researching Parkinsons because I just knew that I had brain damage and I was soon going to be diagnosed as Parkinsons. So I was going through it. And as I was going through it, I lost doing this for the sake of Christ because I couldn't even think straight. All I could think was I wanted out. I was in hell and get me out. And so I just kept going this journey. This was 2 years. So in 2020, I had an argument with my daughter, my younger daughter, Ashley, who would ultimately, after her grandpa would tell her that they needed to get healthy and that they were overweight, she would get upset that he would say that, and why didn't he tell me? And I said, well, he didn't tell me, so that's your deal. And ultimately, she would ask me to help her, and we would scream and yell all the way home. And I would tell her, listen, I'm unmotivated. I don't care if I'm 600 pounds, need a crane to get out the door. I'm doing nothing because I don't care. And I'm going to have to move around again because I hear the lawnmower again in the background. So this is kind of an interesting video. I don't do this in my own strength and my own plan. This was not even my plan. This is God's plan. So that's why I'm not dressed all professional or anything like that. I'm actually just back from a run. So just kind of bear with me. So Ashley would say that that she needed her mom, and that she needed me get up off the sofa and do something for her, do something for myself. And ultimately we would end the night saying no. I would end the night saying no, leave me alone, go bother someone else. And as God would have it, now that I can look back and see him, I woke up the next day and I said, when's enough? When's enough? I was 239 pounds. What was enough? 250, 300, 350, 400, 500, 600, a crane out the door. What's enough? And I said, enough is enough. I said, it's only going to get harder. And I'd had a friend who had coached me on or had been begging me, hadn't coached me, who had begged me to get on Weight Watchers, begged me. And I kept saying, no, I'm keto girl. I'm a keto girl. Well, I lost keto in my journey to Laurel Ridge. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do the Weight Watchers. She said she has so much faith in Weight Watchers. I'm going to do that. So needless to say, long story short, I called her. She got me in the program. I signed up that day. I signed up, me and Ashley. That was August 5th of 2020 that I signed up, both of us. I would now go this journey to get up off my sofa and start getting my life together. I had a pulled muscle in the back of my right leg, so I could barely walk. But I was like, I'm going to do this. So I went out the door and I hobbled down to the mailbox, because I was a couch potato and I couldn't hardly walk. So to waddle to the mailbox was great effort. And plus there was a hill on the way back. So I waddled to the mailbox and back, and I even thought about getting in a cane for my mom because I was just struggling so much. And then I remembered to myself that I do great in challenges. So I decided to challenge my younger daughter, who was doing it with me, to just a little contest of winning $5 a week to who loses the most weight each week. And I was like, the money was no big deal to me, but I knew it would be to her. So I was hoping that this would highly motivate her. But as God would have it, it would highly motivate me. So I would continue to do this little hobble walk to the mailbox, and come home and do 5-pound weights on my arms, 20 minute walk, 20 minutes on my arms. I would get down on the floor and do some sit-ups and some stuff on the floor. I can't even remember exactly what I did. I have to go back and look. And I could barely get down on the floor, and I could barely get up. And so but I continued on, because I was going to beat this 21-year-old, or she was a 20-year-old. I was going to beat her at all cost. And in order to beat her, I was 51. How was I going to beat her if I don't have, if I'm 51? I don't have the energy. I don't have the strength that she has. She can outdo me in a week. You know, she's gonna lose 20 a month. I'm gonna lose 5. I mean, I was like, I can't beat her. And so, anyways, so at 2 weeks in, I was winning, and my daughter was falling out. And I would continue to go this journey. without her. Her coming in here and there, but she just really wasn't interested, and it just wasn't her thing. And but as God would have it, he would get me on the Weight Watcher community, and I would spend an exorbitant amount of time encouraging people. That would be my life for 1 year. I would be talking to the Weight Watcher community. I would encourage all day. And then when I'm talking about all day, I'm talking about like I would go out, run, do my exercise, come back, sit on the couch, and encourage people all day for 1 year. And I would go from cooking, hardly cooking, or cooking really bad food, because in this mental journey, I couldn't remember how to cook. I lost my cooking skill. I lost my brain. I lost my brain. I could not think. And the pharmaceuticals totally took away like anything and everything I had learned in my life. And so as I went this Weight Watcher journey, little by little, I gained it back as far as learning how to cook again and fight for my life. And so I'm going to fast forward a little bit. So the Weight Watcher community really came into my life, loved me, support me, held me up when I could barely walk. And I remember looking at people that encouraged me and loved me and were just doing so phenomenal. They were like, oh, I've lost 70 pounds. I was like, and just encouraging and just loving. And I was like, gosh, I just want to be that person one day. I want to be that person that can just love and support like that. Like, I want that. And I didn't realize like that I was wanting God back in my life. I was so mad at God for taking my life that I didn't let God back in. I didn't even listen to music for 3 years. When I started Weight Watchers, I only listened to YouTubers for 3 years. For 3 years, I didn't listen to music. For 1 year, I listened to only YouTubers for Weight Watchers, because no music is going to be in my life, because music is a very powerful tool that God uses to talk to me in my life. So I wasn't going to allow any music to be heard by me in my life, because I was mad at God for taking my life away, and I wasn't going to let him in by music. So if I watched YouTubers, WW YouTubers, I didn't hear God through them, or I didn't think I was. And so I fast forward, and I continued to go this journey. I lost 60 pounds by August 5th of 2021. So I was down 60 pounds in 1 year. Again, 5 sizes. And I was feeling great. And I continued to walk out my journey with Weight Watchers. And then on August 28th, actually, I'm going to step back a little bit. In June, I got COVID, and my daughter got COVID. And I really began to think that my daughter was possibly going to die in this, because she was telling she was. And then she would recover after a guy starts fighting for her to get up. And unbeknownst to me, what God was going to use this man in her life in a very powerful way. And then I would get sick with COVID, and I too would come to the end of myself. And so I say that because sometimes we need to come into the end of ourselves so that God can do something. And God was using Weight Watchers to rise me, but I didn't want to let God in. So it was going to take something a lot more than Weight Watchers to get me to see God again. So this seeing my daughter fall in love with a man that was God-fearing and just a beautiful soul was enough for me to begin to let God back into my life. And plus he was, I see a bug, sorry. Plus he was very much like me. He was very hungry for God, and he was very much like, he told me his story of how he was seeking God, and it sounded like me. And that really kind of freaked me out, because I was like, okay, God, what are you doing? Like, this guy's real, because we've gone through another guy that we thought was just picture perfect, and he was an absolute nightmare. And so I was like, God, is this guy real? Because I'm just not sure. And so anyways, as God would have it, we would walk out this journey, and I would watch this guy fall in love with my daughter, and my daughter fell in love with this guy, and it happened pretty quickly. And making a long story short out of this, they would soon tell us that she is moving out of town with him and leaving in 10 days. In those 10 days, God would prepare me to let go of my daughter that I have been fighting for since she was born. And in that preparation, she was 3 days prior to leaving our house and my butterfly flying away and being set free by a man who promised to love her forever, God-fearing man, awesome guy, James Quattro Kaler, would tell me that he's going to marry my daughter within 2 months of meeting her, and that she was his forever. And this was a miracle, because my daughter had gone through one toxic relationship after another since she was probably 14 years old. So now she's 21. So 7 years of toxicity. And so to see this man tell me, and not tell everybody, but just me, alone in the room, that he's going to marry my daughter and take care of her forever, let me start letting God back in. So 3 days, so I'm fast forward a little bit, I'm kind of go back and forth because I don't have time. I don't want this to be an hour. So 3 days prior to her leaving, I was working out, because God really likes to talk to me while working out. As you can see, I'm in workout clothes right here. Because he talks to me when I'm fighting for my life. And so as I was working out, he clearly told me, I'm going to set you free today. And I had no idea what he was talking about. I didn't realize he was going to give me an entire miracle healing on August 28th, 3 days before my daughter left. But that day, while I was working out, everything in my life started downloading as if I was a computer, and he was downloading a file of my entire life back into me, my entire ministry, my entire everything healed. Everything. Every prayer I'd ever prayed, healed, done, August 28th. I was in such shock. And then he was healing me. Everything, all my verses, everything that I've studied for 12 years for the sake of Christ was returning. And then as he was healing me, I heard him say, I'm going to tell you why. Because the one reason I was so mad at God is because I didn't know why. I didn't know why he would send me to Laurel Ridge. Why would he send anyone to hell? To play with the demons, to be suicidal, to want to hang herself on a tree. Why? And he said, I'm going to tell you why. And he said, because I had to have you go. It was you or Ashley. And I sent you before, so she wouldn't go. And guys, I had to stop working out. Because he gave me the vision. He gave me the vision of when she was dating a guy that was convincing her to go to Laurel Ridge. And she said, Mom, had you not gone, I'd have gone. It'd have been me. And I said, I was shocked that God was showing me this. I took my daughter's place to save her. Because had I not gone, had I not said yes to go into Laurel Ridge, my daughter probably wouldn't be here. She'd probably be a grave. So would I go again? Would I lose my life for 3 years for my daughter? Absolutely. Either one of them. So, am I willing to sacrifice my life for Christ? Absolutely. So after I received all this miracle healing, August 28th, and I know why, God floods my life like a tidal wave. And I began walking out this healing journey, but it doesn't get super easy because now my family doesn't understand why I have this radical return to Christ, because I have not talked to God or about God in 3 years. I have not listened to music in 3 years. So this is quite the turn of events for me and my family. And so they want me to go back to the psychiatrist. And God says, go, go, because this is going to be fun. And let me tell you, I had the time of my life going to the psychiatrist and the counselor. I said, after I saw my counselor and told her my entire story, and there's a back end story to that, but I'm not going to tell you about like how he arranged to get me 2 hours with my counselor. It's a God moment. Again, I don't have time to tell everything God's done in my life, but it was amazing. I got 2 hours to tell my counselor my entire story. And at the end, I said, God said that not many people are going to believe me. And I said, do you believe me? She goes, well, no. She goes, not only do I believe you, Melissa, and that God healed you, she said, you need to write a book. I was like, yes. I was like, God told me to write a book in 2012. I said, this book just got better. And she's like, yeah. She's like, people need to hear your story. And so I was like, this is incredible. Like, this is incredible. So the next day I had an appointment with my psychiatrist. Now, my psychiatrist had been with me the entire time, the entire 3 years. She has walked with me. She has watched me go from a very happy, joyful person to someone who has no life whatsoever, to someone who doesn't talk, someone who says, I can't cook, I will never be anything again, to someone who was suicidal, to someone who gained 75 pounds, just someone who I lost 55 pounds. I lost my taste buds for a good portion of that time. I lost weight because I lost weight and then I gained weight. I lost 55 pounds and then I gained 75. It was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. And she saw it all. And when I told her, I said, God healed me and I am back, her mouth fell to the floor because she knew that God had done it. She could tell I was the same person I was when I came in the very first day into her office. And I told her, I said, we could have left you. I said, we could have left you, but God needed you to see this day. God needed to let you know that you were chosen. There's many chosen people in this journey. And my psychiatrist, my counselor, or some of them, my dentist is another. So these chosen people were chosen so that they could witness the power of God in a life. We always hear about miracles, but do we really see somebody get one? Well, I now have experienced a miracle healing, and I can't shut up. I can't shut up because I'm not going to waste this miracle healing that God gave me to sit and be quiet. I'm like, I have a ministry that I was given in 2012 after I lost my daddy to suicide. And that has all been resurrected. And we're going worldwide with it. Because that was given to me, because that was the little nugget that God wanted to give me, because God took my dad unexpectedly. It was a hit. And I knew God, and I didn't understand how my daddy could just commit suicide without caring about his children. And I also knew that God could have stopped it, and he didn't. And so God gave me sparkle. He told me to sparkle for my family. And soon sparkle for Jesus and shine would be born on the same day as my husband's dad had died a year later. So God was up to something a lot bigger than I could possibly even believe. And today, as I was out doing my run to become a forerunner of Christ, and to learn everything I'm going to do with this ministry, this empowering ministry that's going to go worldwide, I knew that I had to get on here and give my brief testimony of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I am running a 75-day program to get your life back, which was composed or written by me studying Overcomer, the movie Overcomer. And I only watched a brief bit of that because I slept through a lot of it, but I think that God just gave me the pieces I needed to write the program, and for him to actually write the program and me to understand why I'm writing it. And I also studied 75 Hard, another program. So between those two programs, September 11th, God downloaded an entire program that can change many lives and transform lives into overcomers and forerunners to Christ. So I am on day 22 of this program. I'm down 8 pounds, but better than that, I'm getting, he's like giving me pieces of my journey every day. I get up and fight for my life. He's giving me my destiny. He's giving me my calling. He's giving me my assignment. And my first big assignment was to go YouTube, which I obeyed, and I'm on here now. And as I was out training to run today, I was also told that I felt the Lord told me that I already have people as I go worldwide. I already have people in place in states, and I believe they know who they are, and they just need to say yes to the calling of God, whenever that is. I have someone in Tennessee. I have someone in Florida. I have someone in California. I have someone in Canada. I did have someone in Canada, but she passed away a year ago when I was in my mental anguish. And but there is a legacy there. So there is someone in Canada to pick that up. And so there's already states that can be picked up. And so Sparkle for Jesus and Shine is not just a in-town ministry. It is a worldwide ministry that I will be the founder of. And that is not, that is a God-given ministry. I also have a ministry home, as we sold out for Christ and built a home when my daddy gave us money, instead of using all our money and putting it in cars and things like that didn't make sense to us. We decided to buy a house out in the country, as we've always wanted a bed and breakfast. And we did it because God called us out there, and now we call it God's Bed and Breakfast, as we do not charge people to come and love on them. And we have been out of the scene for 3 years. So we're now coming back into the scene. And our house is where I am currently listening to God about getting it together. So we're getting it together one room at a time, and the yard and everything else. Because this is going to be quite some time. It's going to be the time of our lives. I went to hell, touched hell, but now I can't even wrap my head around how good God is. So I'm here to share my story, and I'm also going to be running my journey, 75 days of my journey. So I'm at day 22. So I will run my journey 5 days a week, generally not on Saturday. I came on Saturday, I think, to announce myself to all platforms. And give my testimony and come in the way that God would have me come in. So this is an obedient step. So I will be on here, coming on probably once a day to do a video, and just to love people for Jesus. And that's what I do. I was thinking about as I ran today, like, I'm born for this. Like, I'm a born lover. I love people. It's not hard for me to love people. It's not hard for me to have people in my house. It's hard for me not to have people in my house. I didn't have people in my house for 3 years because I was so mad at God, and all my friends are about God. So I was like, no, I'm going to have nobody over, no friends, no nothing. But now that I'm a lover of Jesus and God has healed me, and I totally understand why I went on the journey I went on, nothing's going to stop me from the call of God. And so I'm going to continue to obey every lead that he tells me to do. And if you at any time feel that you are called to be to come into the team of Sparkle for Jesus and Shine and be one of the leaders, please let me know, because I'm not going to name the leaders. I'm going to let God call them out. This is pretty much my story, and this is pretty much my lead-in. And so God is this good. God is this good, and we are not, this is another thing I need to say, we are not waiting for the revival. We are in the revival, church. This is the revival. Craig Rochelle from Life Church, if you don't watch him, you should go watch him. He's a highly powerful preacher online. He also has churches, church plants everywhere. But he's a very powerful preacher or pastor, and he speaks, stop waiting for the revival, church. This is the revival. People, ordinary people such as Melissa Galindo, are going to rise to the call of God that she was called to 2009 and trained for 12 years, is now going to be ready to go full force into the kingdom of God. And nothing's going to stop her family from entering in. So I'm very excited that as we enter into the kingdom of God and his mission, which is ultimately his mission is to, through me and my family, is to love people for the sake of Jesus. And how does Jesus love people? And I was taught that in Romania on a mission trip. So let me just tell you, if God sends you on a mission trip and you feel that God's sending you on a mission trip, don't let money or anything else hold you back, because it just might be your destiny. It might be your calling that he's sending you to go train for. Because I had no idea I went to Romania to learn to be Romania in the world. To be Romania in my community. To know how and what it looks like to love people for Jesus with everything in you. And to not let everything in the world stop you. People may think I'm crazy. No, I'm not crazy. I have a psychiatrist note and a counselor note that says I'm 100% a miracle from God. So no, I'm not crazy. I have that backing me now. I was crazy when I was in the mental institute and all the pharmaceuticals took my life away. And let me just tell you a little bit on that. If you feel like you're going mentally crazy, get your brain checked. Don't go to a psychiatrist and a counselor. If my daughter and me would have gone to a neurologist, we never would have lost our lives to pharmaceuticals. It was a brain issue. It was never, my daughter lost her life when she was 8 till she was 11, 3 years. I lost my life from 2018 to 2021, all because of pharmaceuticals. Now, I'm not saying pharmaceuticals are a bad thing, because there's things that it's important to have them for. But I'm telling you, don't lean on them for ADD, ADHD, ABC, FDD, OCD. I don't care what it is. Get your brain checked. Get your brain checked before you get on those drugs. Because ultimately, you are a lab rat. And you may never have anything that they say you have. And if you don't have it, you'll lose your life. It's not worth it. So I'm leaving you there. I encourage you to join the journey with me. I encourage you to let me know you're on the journey. I am on 3 platforms. I'm on YouTube, Facebook and Weight Watchers community. On Weight Watchers, I am Sparkle Missy. That's my handle. On Facebook, I am Be Set Free to Sparkle for Jesus and Shine. And on YouTube, I'm Melissa Galindo. So I welcome in all platforms again today. And I'm excited to see what God has for us all. And I also just want you to know that God is in the miracle business. And He is using me to spread the word. So sparkle for Jesus and shine. God bless. Have a great day. I love you.